At Indie Booksource, you can shop by genre or by author, and you will be buying direct from the author's main purchase link. We offer hundreds of titles in formats that include ebooks, paperback, hardbound, and audiobook. Support an indie author. Visit indiebooksource.com today.
Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. How are you this evening, everybody? I'm so glad that you're watching us, whether you're watching us live or listening to us on any of the many channels that we podcast on. We're glad that you've joined us. I do want to remind everybody that we broadcast on 6 channels. 3 of them are Facebook, 1 is LinkedIn, and we have 2 YouTubes. And if you're on one of those channels, the people that are on the other channels won't necessarily hear or see your comments. So we put them up, and that's why you're not seeing those, because a lot of people get confused about
Please
that.
go ahead and comment.
Yeah.
And especially if you're on LinkedIn and your name may not show up, we might have to ask you what your name is, but you don't have to give it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right. And so Trish Pickens already says, hello, Trish. Trish has just purchased a new house, everybody. Yay. So she might miss a few shows. She's going to be a busy girl. C.W. Hawes is
Chris.
In the house. Hi, Chris. He says, hi, guys. Joe Conjal says, hi, Rob and Joan. More about Joe towards the end of the show.
Yeah,
we've got
we'll
a
get
little
back with
bit
you,
of
Joe.
news.
Yeah, we got something to say about you.
Paul Hollis says, hi, Joan and Rob.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Glad that you're here. And Caleb Pirtle says,
Caleb.
Anxious to hear the man who gazes at stars.
And boy, he does.
Oh my gosh, Caleb. He is so interesting. He has won awards. He's seen more. He's discovered more supernovae than anybody else. Okay, I'm sorry. I am excited about it, though. And those of you who know me well know I'm all about that. Trish said she's a Tide girl, LOL. I bet she is. And Joe Conjal says, congrats, Trish. And George Dismuke says, okay, I'm here, and about half the cast of Siren Song, plus my publisher.
Yay, welcome everybody.
Welcome to the whole gang and crew. A little bit more about them later, too.
There you go.
George is one of our sponsors, and we're going to have a little chat after one of or
some
2
news,
of his commercials, some exciting news.
Yes. But we're not going to tell you right now.
Trish says, thank you for the congratulations.
Well, why don't we get introducing our guest
the person
tonight
that we're here for.
He is an author, and he's much more than an author. He's an author plus. Tom Bowles is his name, and he's over in England. He's in Suffolk, England. And Tom is a fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society and the past president of the British Astronomical Association. He's won the Merlin Medal and Walter Goodacre Awards for his contribution to astronomy. And he actually has a main belt asteroid number 7648 named in his honor.
That's right.
Tom Bowles.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool.
I don't have an asteroid named after me.
No, I don't either. I don't think so. No, we'd probably know, wouldn't we? Yeah, I guess we would. At any rate, without much more ado, why don't we bring in our guest for the evening, Mr. Tom Bowles. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, everybody. Hello, John. Hello, Rob.
Hello.
Hello.
It's very late at night where you're at. We appreciate you staying up so late.
I was just thinking, after that brilliant introduction, I can only disappoint people now. So I'll need to really concentrate and do a really good job here. So thank you for that introduction, Rob. Terrific.
Everybody's flocking in here to see you.
To see you. Caleb says, welcome to George and his cast of thousands. Yes.
James Ricard.
Ricard. Hello, James.
Haven't seen you for a while. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Almost didn't make it. Glad you did. You're in for a
you
treat.
You slid into home.
And then Ghislaine McCann says, waiting for my stargazer watching from Canada. Yeah, that's awesome. And Lonnie Becca Jones. Hey, how are you? Hello, everyone. Excited to be here. This is the Becca part of Lonnie and Becca Jones.
There you go.
I believe.
That is true.
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here. You don't know. Lonnie could be watching.
Well, Lonnie could be watching. I hope Lonnie's watching. That would be nice.
Now, why don't we talk to the person they came to hear?
Oh, that's right. He hasn't said a word yet.
No.
Well, he has. He said a couple of words, like a disclaimer. So, Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, as you've already said, I'm an author and an astronomer. I guess I've got a little bit of history of how both of those things came about. Because,
Perfect.
You know, I went to school when I was about 11, and it was the afternoon, and it was in Glasgow. And you can tell by the accent that I'm a little bit Scottish. And it gets dark quite early, and a friend in the class brought in this telescope, and he let me have a look at Saturn and Jupiter, and there was a little cluster of stars called the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters. I had a look through his telescope at those, and I tell you, I was absolutely smitten. I just had to get my own telescope. And of course, I had no money at the time to get a telescope, so I used to make them up through sort of kitchen roll inner tubes and the cardboard things you get in the side, spectacle lenses, and they worked quite well. So, you know, that was pretty successful. Well, I left school at 16, surprisingly enough, and I went and I did an apprenticeship with an optical company in Glasgow called Charles Franks, and they made astronomical telescopes. So I learned to make them, I learned to design them, and I was there for 5 or 6 years. And then, of course, the Japanese started to bring in cheap imports, and there's no way the company could compete with it. So it went down the plug hole. So I left that company and I joined a company that you might recognize, National Cash Register Company out of Dayton, Ohio.
Yes.
And I used to spend many months traveling between London and Dayton and business meetings. And I started off as a computer engineer, and I worked my way up, and I ended up on the board of NCR UK. So that was a sort of pinnacle of my career. And I worked for a few other companies as well after that in sort of board level positions. But I took early retirement. And the idea of taking early retirement is I'd start doing what I really wanted to do, which was astronomy. So I moved out to Suffolk. I bought myself 3 automatic robotic telescopes, and I set up an observatory, and I started to look for supernovae. And, you know, over a period of sort of 17, 18 years of doing that, I discovered about 155 supernovae.
Wow.
That's a lot.
I've got an entry in Wikipedia, and it says I've discovered 149, but there was another 6 that I discovered that never went through the official channels. So 155 is my discovery total in overall. So that led me into sort of becoming, I joined the British Astronomical Association, ended up as their president. Then I got elected as a fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society. And then I went on several of their committees and stuff to help them run society. And I was an interface between professional astronomers and what I was a semi-professional amateur. So I acted as the interface between those two. So that worked quite well. And then the Royal Astronomical Society signed a contract with Cunard, and they were interested in having speakers on board the ships. So I volunteered to do that. And I got assigned to the Queen Mary II. What a wonderful ship that is. majestic. It's not a cruise ship, it's an ocean liner. And you know the difference between a cruise ship and an ocean liner?
No.
A cruise ship, the bridge is right up at the pointy end, right up at the bow. So as it's almost overlooking the bow. And an ocean liner, there's a big long space between the bow and the bridge. And the idea of that is if you're at sea and there's high waves, the waves can break over the front of the ship without affecting the bridge. So
that's interesting.
Nice little bit of trivia there. So
let me interrupt you a minute here. We've got a bunch of comments. Ken Stark, hello, Ken Stark. Ken. How are you? Yeah, hi, Joan, Robin, everybody. It's been a while since I've seen you. George Dismuke says he loves your accent. And then there's a question for you. Have you been able to visit any famous observatories? Trish Pipkins has asked that one.
Only in the UK and in Europe. I would love to come and do the astronomy observatory trail down California and Arizona.
Yeah, the one in Griffin Park.
I would really love to see the 200-inch at Mount Palomar, because that is
San Diego, I think.
When I was growing up, that telescope was built in 1948, and it was the biggest telescope in the world the whole way through my sort of learning process. And even today, I look at that telescope with sort of relevance. You know, it's sort of better and bigger. Well, not bigger, but in my mind, I see it as a sort of really historical telescope, and it just gets something in here for me when I see it and I look at it. And it means more to me than some of the bigger ones. Even the Hubble Space Telescope and things like that. I'd rather see the 200-inch at Mount Palomar.
Wow.
Wow. You should come.
I should come. I'll come someday and do it, but I'm not quite sure when. But, you know, I've used all these telescopes because when I make my discoveries, they need to be confirmed. They need to have things called spectra taken of them. That's they need to have the light split up so as they can tell what the stars are made of. And they need to get a spectrum so as they can actually prove that it is a supernova. So the 200-inch has done it. The two big Kecks have done it. The Hubble Space Telescope's done it. I mean, there's nothing nicer than waking up in the morning and getting an email in saying, last night the Hubble Space Telescope had a look at your
Your supernova.
And it's a type 1A, sort of 4 days after maximum, you know, and That's lovely, you know.
And what's the new one now? They've after the Hubble, they launched
the James Webb Telescope. Yeah. That is going to be something. I mean, that was supposed to launch in 2018, so it's launched 4 years late.
Yeah.
But it's going to be worth every bit of the wait because
I'm excited.
Better late than not at all, I guess. Right?
Bigger than the Hubble.
Bigger than the Hubble can see
it
further.
Uses a different form of light than the Hubble.
Yes.
It's using redder light, which means it can see further into the universe. So, you know, it's going to see right almost, well, not to the edge of the universe, but it's almost to when the first galaxy started to form. And that will be terrific because
it will be amazing.
It'll be absolutely amazing. And they reckon, you know, that they actually be able to do analysis of extrasolar planets. That's planets getting around other stars. And they'll be able to look at the atmospheres of those planets.
Yep.
And detect whether life is there or not. Just looking at the constituents of the atmosphere. You know, if you look at the atmosphere and you find oxygen, that's a sign that life's there. If you find methane, that's a sort of sign that life's there. So it's a whole, the whole thing is just mind-boggling. And I reckon in the first year that it's active, it will make so many discoveries that will boggle the mind completely.
And Joe Conjol says, I've got an original Haley scope. It's not much as a telescope, but it's all mine.
Not quite the
recognize that, Mick.
I don't either. So
Tom, how did this birth you into writing?
Into writing books.
Because I know you wrote scientific papers.
Maybe since this
I did scientific papers, but it really, I need to go back to my dad, really. My dad, God bless his soul, is dead now, but he's had 4 or 5 different abortive attempts at writing a novel. And it was back in the days before computers. So there was no word processing or anything like that. And so I used to write his things out longhand in sort of school exercise books. And I can remember the front page of almost every one of his novels. And it always started off with the hero crossing a bridge in London and a deep pea souper. A pea souper was a slang word we used in London for really thick, unhealthy fog before they actually got the Clean Air Act running and cleaned it up. And, you know, it'd probably run on for sort of 20, 25 pages. Then he'd run out of puff. He'd nothing else to write about because the man had never been to London. He didn't know anything about the geography of London, nothing about the structure of the place. So he was trying to set a novel in a place where he'd never been, and he just didn't have the background. So, you know, when I started to write my novels, I thought, well, let's really stick and use the old adage, write about what you know. So I started to write about not just about astronomy, but being an astronomer. And you know, one of the things I noticed is that if you're an astronomer and you go and meet other astronomers, they're very cooperative. They tell you things. They're eager to tell you things. And, you know, I thought, no, I could use that in a novel. If I had an astronomer going to some organization, he could speak to them, get them to speak back to him, and he could find information that an official investigator wouldn't be able to find out. So that's where the idea came from.
Okay.
So I take Brad Willis, my astronomer, and I put him into sort of scientific institutions to do investigations. And it seems to be working so far. So
awesome.
I'm pleased with the way it's turned out. So that's basically where the motivation came from. Interesting. That's the cover you've just put up. And if you look at it very closely, well, you don't need to do it that closely, but there's no A in dark.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Substituted the A for a lambda sign. And I'll let you into a little secret. Lambda is international astronomical symbol for dark energy. Oh, a little piece of knowledge you've got there.
For those of us who don't know, now we're in the know. And for those of you that are listening and you're not watching live and you're listening to the podcast, what he's talking about is the A in dark is not an A. It looks like an inverted V. Now, what would an inverted B look like? It's an inverted V. And that's the science symbol that he was talking about.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Now, this is a Brad Willis adventure, right?
It is indeed, yes.
So Brad Willis must be the hero, and perhaps it might even be you.
Well, my friends tell me that Brad Willis is me on steroids.
On steroids.
I haven't given Brad Willis any magical. Well, he's got a few. He's probably braver than I am, but I haven't given him any superpowers. So everything that Brad Willis does, I guess I can do it to a lesser extent. You know, not so as brilliantly or as flamboyantly as he does it, but everything that he does, I'm associated with. There's a thread running through all of the books I'm writing, and that is that his first wife, Carol, gets killed in a hit-and-run accident.
Oh.
And he gets PTSD as a result because he was in the car when it happened, and the trauma is there. And he can see her face up close when she died, you know, and his vacant eyes stare at him and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that haunts him through the first 2 books, certainly. And but it actually is an asset to him because when he gets stressed, he gets the PTSD comes to the top, and he sometimes does rash things, but the rash things that he does always gets him out of trouble. So sort of, it's a godsend in a way. So there's a thread running through the books where he's trying to find the red car which killed his wife and the driver of the red car. And so that's sort of a background story running through it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. We have a bunch of comments. Let me get to them here.
And then we need to do our first commercial.
Then we need to go to commercial. But Joe Conjal says the Halley scope came out in 1985 to 86 when Halley's comet passed by. And CW, this was when you were talking about your dad and how your dad wrote novels when he was writing. He says he still writes his novels longhand.
Wow.
Oh, CW.
God bless you.
I don't even. Paul Hollis says it's a great cover, and it is. It's an amazing color. Maybe after the commercial, I'll put that back up, and we'll have Tom explain to us what the cover means for those that are just listening to the podcast. George Dismuke said that was an editorial interjection from the Canine Gallery.
And that was our dog.
I don't know what our dog was barking at. And Stuart, and I'm going to ruin your name. Balburney. Stuart Balburney said it's a terrific read. He's read Dark Energy. He loves it.
Good.
And Trish Pipkin. Thank you, Stuart. And Trish Pipkin says, love that cover. And James Ricard says, no matter what, it's a cool cover. It is a cool cover. All right.
Okay, we got through all that. Let's hear from our sponsors now. Give them a chance to
a word. Well,
a word from our sponsors. Yeah. Hold on. We'll be right back, guys. Just a short break.
People who like to read want to get their hands on books by Becca Jones.
Becca Jones, the breakthrough author who tells it like it is. It takes courage to tell a story when it reveals dark secrets. Becca Jones delves deep into the hidden world of sexual abuse. She tells what happened and also tells how she survived.
Meant to Be is much more than just entertaining. Meant to Be gives you a point of reference, hope to cling to, and becomes a guide for survival if you have suffered the same thing. Meant to Be, Becca Jones, a must-have.
Meant to Be is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many other bookseller websites.
Lord, she's still alive.
Who's still alive?
Maris, that's who.
Come on, Angie, that's impossible.
Impossible or not, she's still alive, I tell you. She killed that boatload of people, and she's just getting started. There's no limit to what she will do.
It's not easy to kill a siren. It takes a formula and a plan. Siren Song 2 is the spellbinding sequel to Siren Song. Both novels by George Dismukes.
Siren Song 2 will be on bookshelves and bookseller websites in July. Don't miss it.
Well, we're back. And as I said, we have a bit of news from one of our sponsors, and that is from George Dismukes. And here it is. The Siren Hunter. It's coming in January 2023. As you know, Siren Song 1 and Siren has already been out for a while, and Siren Song 2 is coming out, as you just heard on the commercial, in July. And this was going to be Siren Song 3. However, after a long talk with his publisher, Nancy Shoemaker, they decided to change the name for a couple of reasons. Number one, Siren Song 3 sounded redundant somehow and a little tiresome, but far more importantly, it opens up the door for a franchise. And in consideration of the fact that all 3 books are destined to become movies, by naming the book The Siren Hunter, it creates an identity for a TV series. And I really like that idea. And plus, I'm going to put this picture up again. Okay, this actress name is Jamie Wilson, and Jamie plays actually my favorite character in the books. And she is the Siren Hunter. And that will launch, as we said, in January. And Jamie plays the role of Angie Holland, who really is a very dynamic figure and character in the book. I like her very much. And very much against her wishes, she's drawn into becoming the Siren Hunter. The photographer that did this beautiful picture is Mark Clark. So thank you, everybody. Okay, back to you, Tom.
Can't wait, George. That's going to be great.
It is. The movie should be coming out fairly soon, I think. Oh, Jenny says, woohoo, looks great, George. Trish Pipkins said, so exciting. And Trish also said, Angie is a great character. She really is my favorite character in that series.
Yeah, if you haven't started Siren Song, start with Siren Song 1 and
work your way up.
Get on board before July.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's get back to, I wanted, Tom, for you to perhaps describe your cover of Dark Energy, because a lot of people will listen to this as a podcast and they won't have any visual.
So it looks like there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on, yeah. I mean, if you could imagine Dark Energies in big print right along the sort of center of the page, and then my name and A Brad Willis Adventure is down below it. The picture is overall relatively dark. There's a lot of grays in it. And so the title is out printed in white. At the bottom half of the page, there's a few empty sort of ammunition cases to sort of suggest that, you know, sort of a gun's been fired and there's been weapons used. In the background, there's an oil refinery, which is in fire. It's exploding. And there's helicopters circling around it. So all of that takes place inside the book. Obviously, I can't tell you too much about it, or I'll be a complete spoiler. But the background shows the tower of the oil refinery, the orange and red flames and black smoke coming out of it, and the smoke rising up into the air. So it gives a feeling of being a thriller and being action-packed, which it is. There's a lot of action in my book. I sort of concentrate more on action than anything else. So it's pretty fast-moving and fast-paced. Yeah.
It sounds really good.
Sounds really good. And then you've got his second book.
Yeah, I was just thinking, though, before we go to the second book, that I like the fact that that your character is flawed, because we all are, aren't we? And a lot of people have to deal with PTSD, you know, not just people that have been in military action, but a lot of people have PTSD.
Before we go to the second book, why don't we do the book giveaway? Because that'll be the first book anyway.
All right. So let me
get your typing fingers ready, everybody. Let's do Tom Bowles.
There we go. All right. So first of all, before you get that going, we never put this up. UK author Tom Bowles. Yeah. Let me tell you how to reach Tom, okay? It's Facebook, Tom-Bowles-author. Do they need the number?
Probably not. You can just search for Tom Bowles and you'll find him. With a hyphen
and 2 hyphens and an author. And TOMBOLES, and you all know how to spell author.
And that's a longer number than your asteroid. Like twice as long.
And you can find Tom on Twitter at Bowles_Tom. You can find him on Instagram at Tom Bowles 2021. You can find him on LinkedIn at Tom-Bowles-. I know we need this number. It's 092AA764. And now his email.
And he can be found on indiebooksource.com.
Yeah, he doesn't have a website, so you can go look him up on indiebooksource.com and find out
everything.
Get links to buy his books.
Right.
And
just search
find out about his books.
Just search Tom Bowles or look in the author list.
And you'll find it.
And you'll find him.
Mm-hmm. And his email is tom.bowles@tombowlesruntogether.org. And
the book
giveaway
is the first 3 people to email tom.bowles@tombowles.org will win an ebook copy of Dark Energy. And that, make sure you know that's .org and not .com.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Make sure you get the right email address again, guys.
Right.
So tombowles@tombowles.org will win an ebook copy of Dark Energy. The first 3.
Get typing.
You guys all have a chance because Chanel is still undergoing stem cell.
Prayers need to keep going up for Chanel.
Yeah. But at least you get a chance.
Right.
Okay, we got a few more
It's the upside.
Joe Conjal said, wow, fantastic, George. And George Smuke says, thank you so much. Yes, Jamie is a hardworking actress. And Trish Pivkin says, I have PTSD and it is no joke. And it is not. And I just realized I just read those other ones without putting them up there. So sorry, guys. I'm asleep on my job. What can I tell you? Okay. So now shall we go on with the show?
Yeah, go on to number 2. Book number 2.
We would like to hear about book number 2. And I'll put that cover up right now.
Shades of White.
A Brad Willis adventure, Tom Bowles. Ooh, explain this cover, will you? What's going on there?
Right. Shades of White, the title comes from a description that I once read of Antarctica. And the book takes place at the South Pole mainly, but all around Antarctica generally. And the people who have been to Antarctica describe the whiteness as having loads and loads of different shades and colors. If you look at glaciers, they've got purples and blues in them and pinks and reds, depending which way the light's getting refracted through it. So that's where I got the idea of calling it Shades of White.
Oh, nice.
I was going to say, did you go there and research?
No, we didn't.
But you didn't.
I would love to go there. I'm a bit old to go there now, but I'd love to winter over there. That's you don't overwinter there, you winter over. That's the term that they use in Antarctica for people who stay during the cold period. And during that period, nobody can get into you, nobody can get out from the base. And that's what makes it quite dangerous if things start going wrong. And you know that's part of the fear that builds up in the plot. Whereas if the base was to lose power during the Antarctic winter, everybody would just die. So Brad Willis is sent to Antarctica to investigate what they call electromagnetic pulses, the pulses of radio energy, which are so powerful. They're knocking out power supplies. Planes are dropping from the sky. It's interference with the electronic equipment in the planes, and it's really getting quite serious. So there are 4 or 5 big telescopes in Antarctica, and so he goes as an astronomer to do his investigations. And he gets involved with 2 telescopes, the South Pole Telescope and the Ice Cube Telescope. Now, the Ice Cube Telescope is used for picking up cosmic rays, and that's what this research is used for. But he actually uses the detectors on it to pick up this electromagnetic impulse. And because the clock on the telescope is so accurate, it's accurate to sort of 2 nanoseconds in time. And all this is accurate, by the way. The astronomy is 100% true. He can use the sensors in the telescope to work out the direction from where the pulses are coming from. And that starts his story off. So he goes off and sort of searches to find it.
That's
And in a way, they're sabotage. They try and sabotage the telescope. They try and poison him. There's a couple of murders. And the whole thing sort of builds up to a big crescendo again at the end. So
I love this. This is these are murder mystery books, and the hero is an astronomer, and he uses astronomy to help solve what's going on in shades of white, and I imagine in dark energy also. That's the whole point.
Yes.
And that is so cool.
And I think you also described them as techno-thrillers, right?
Techno-thrillers, because there's so much technology in them. Okay, Joe Conjal says, love that cover. It is. It's really good.
For Shades of White. Yeah.
In Shades of White. And then Trish Pipkin says, that cover gives me the Thing vibes.
It does, right?
Thing vibes. I've never heard of that before.
And Becca Jones says, great cover. Okay, The Thing was a movie that took place in Antarctica.
I remember. I know it now. I know it. Yeah.
Okay. So she said it's reminding her of that is what she meant by that. And Ghislaine McCann said, you are never too old, Tom, because you said you were too old to go to Antarctica. But I'm with him. Yeah. I think it's because he means he would be stuck there. Once he went in to winter over, he would be in there until the bitter end of winter.
If you could just drop in, spend a couple days and leave, maybe you'd be good at that, right? But it's a long trip too.
Just to get to Antarctica, you need to be pretty fit and pretty young. And you need to be able to do 2 or 3 jobs. You can't just go away there and say, I'm going to be an astronomer. You need to back up and be a cook or a motor mechanic or a plumber or something. Everybody's got 2 or 3 jobs to keep the stations going. And so I reckon I'd be pretty useless at that. So
well, you could be an astronomer and an author.
I don't think there's much demand for authors in Antarctica.
Well, it's something you could do.
You could tell bedtime stories.
You could tell bedtime stories. There you go. Yeah. That's it. In case the thing
keep everybody happy.
Genevieve Andrews Kelly said, hi, friends. Hello, Genevieve. We miss you. We love you.
I hope you enjoyed New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Joe
Conjal says, it reminds me of a normal Syracuse winter day.
There you go.
And George Dismuke says, the original The Thing was shot in the 50s and James Arness was the creature. That's right. He was indeed. And then what's his face? And he's one of my favorite actors. I can't remember, but he did the sequel. He was on Stargate. Help me out, Trish. The original Stargate. I don't remember his name.
Card. Seconds the motion there.
Says James Arness was the monster in the original Thing. Yes, he was. A giant carrot. No,
that was a different one.
That was a different one.
But he was a giant carrot.
But that was him too.
That was great too.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, it's actually time for our next commercial break.
All right.
We went a little long in the first part.
Okay.
So we're going to take another short break, and then we will come back and talk to you some more. This is so much fun.
Yeah. Think up questions now. Anybody have questions for Tom? So.
Right.
We know a little bit about his books. I want to hear about what he's doing in the meantime. So
we will be back in 2 minutes. Don't go away.
Just a quick commercial.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Behold, this one about a man, a woman, a black jaguar, and an ancient Maya legend. Two Faces of the Jaguar is a novel by George Dismukes that will take you deep into the jungle and capture your imagination until the last word. Two Faces of the Jaguar is book 1 of a trilogy. Two Faces of the Jaguar, where only the adventurous dare to read.
Two Faces of the Jaguar, The Lost City, and The Jaguar's Quest are available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and many other bookseller websites. Two Faces of the Jaguar, the book people are talking about. Get your copy today.
This award-winning thriller has it all. Murder, political intrigue, mob revenge, and a bit of romance. Not to mention strong female and male characters with a storyline that could be tomorrow's headline news. Now for a quick peek into our story. To help solving a nationwide plot involving the assassination of several U.S. senators, the O'Rourke team is called in. To complicate matters, they now have to work against the clock to rescue one of their own. You see, the mob didn't take too kindly to the O'Rourke team's involvement last spring. It seems to have led to the indictment of their boss. Will they succeed?
And we're back again.
Yes. And we have some more
comments.
More comments. Let's see. We had James Arness was the original. James Ricard said Kurt Russell was in the remake, but I was thinking of James Spader. And Trish said, which Stargate character? Could you ask that again? I was talking about Daniel Jackson in the movie. And George Dismuke said, my third wife auditioned for the thing, but she was too scary.
His poor third wife.
Deborah. I named one of my scary looking zombie dragons after her, like I told him I would.
So, Tom, what's next on your
agenda
for the series?
Well, I'm working on a third book. I've got a working title at the moment, which is called A Survey of Murder. But I'm not 100% happy with that title. It seems a bit clunky, so I'm still sort of struggling to see if I can change it. But the third book sort of sees Brad Willis. Well, let me finish off at the end of the second book. At the end of the second book, he goes to visit a psychiatrist in St. Petersburg, and he gets hypnotized and gets drugged and hypnotized as part of the treatment. And while he's under the state of hypnosis, he remembers some of the numbers on the registration plate of the car. And so he comes back and he starts to use that in the third book to trace the car. So as you could imagine, he finds the car, he finds the driver of the car, and that leads them into a whole plethora of problems and crime. He comes in contact with a British member of Parliament who is being threatened. And then he gets involved with smuggling, murders, and heaven knows what else. And he leads all the way up the chain until he gets to the highest levels of British society. And that's where he starts to find the culprits that are causing all this chaos. So the third book doesn't travel so much as the first two books. I mean, the geography is a bit more restricted. It's all taking place in the UK. So, but it's I guess it leans more on a sort of detective come murder investigation than a sort of the spy type thing that you've got before. Yeah. But he still goes undercover and investigates. And he still has the help of MI5 in this case, because it's inside the country.
It's at home. Mm-hmm.
And the Metropolitan Police as well. So he's working with a team. And he can, I should have said the whole way through the book, he met up in the middle of the first book, he meets up with an old university girlfriend called Sophie. So there's a little bit of romance starts to build there.
Finally.
Yeah, it goes all the way through the second book and into the third book. And so the people that sort of like a little bit, I mean, it's not heavily into romance. It's not a romance book, but there's enough just to sort of whet the appetite a little bit if anybody likes to have a little touch of romance. And in the first book, there's quite a hot scene in a hotel in Munich, which, whoa, well, I wrote it, and my wife Rita read it, and she said, "You can't say that." She says, "No, it's too soft." She says, "Modern books are a little more sort of racy, feisty than that, you know." So she sort of changed it a little bit. So anybody that reads,
her to thank.
Yeah, there you go.
Blame that on Rita, not on me. Okay.
Okay, it was Rita's fault.
When does that come out? In about 3 weeks, did you say, or?
That's the third book. It'll be 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
I'm waiting in the cover, but I've stopped the cover getting designed now because I'm still messing around in my brain with the title.
Well, as soon as you get the
3
cover,
weeks after the design, decide what title it'll be.
You're going to give us the cover as soon as you get that, and we'll put it on your page on Indie Booksource. Yeah,
I certainly will do.
For those of you who don't speak Scottish English, it's surfeit of murders, meaning an excess of murders.
Yeah.
C.W. Hawes said, "Why did you choose techno-thrillers instead of sci-fi?"
I guess normal thrillers and espionage type stories are what I read most in my own choice of books. I do read sci-fis, I mean, but they tend to read the classical ones like Asimov and people like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd be all that happy about creating worlds and different creatures and whatnot. So I think we'd keeping it as a techno-thriller. I'm keeping it again to what I know.
Yeah.
And things that I'm comfortable with. And that's basically the reason for it, I think.
And then George Dismuke says, "Man, I dig that accent. I'll bet Tom Bowles would be fun to have a beer with, maybe two."
At least beer, yeah.
At least that, George.
Yeah.
Go down.
I'm a Scotsman, but I drink Irish beer. I drink Guinness.
Oh, all right. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, I love Guinness. So, I'm very partial to that.
Okay.
My grandfather on my father's side came from Sligo. So I've got a bit of Irish blood in me as well.
Oh, yeah. You're Irish.
Yeah, okay, I'm Irish. You can tell me the accent. The top of the modern to your list.
My grandfather always said there's only two kinds of people in the world, those that are Irish and those that wish they were. So you're in. Don't worry.
That's it. Good.
God rest his soul. Anyway, C.W. Hawes said, "Always good to write what you read." Yep, it is. I read a lot of sci-fi, but C.W., I would have so much trouble writing it for the same reason Tom just said. That, and George, I think, liked the idea of Guinness. Yes, he said. Oh dear. I agree with you. I know that usually our audience asks, and they haven't, so I'm going to ask it for those listening. Do you, have you ever heard the expression, "Are you a pantser or a plantser"?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think anybody is 100% a pantser because you need somewhere to start with. But I think what I do is I start off with about 4 or 5 situations that I can see building into a story. So I guess that makes me at that stage a plotter. Yeah. But after I've done that, I just let myself run at it. So I then become a pantser. Because, when I write a book, I imagine I'm reading it at the same time. It's just like reading a normal book, except it's a lot more fun because you're writing it.
Yeah.
And I let the book become alive and the characters become alive and the book takes over and things just happen. And as I go through the book, ideas just materialize out of there and say, "Oh, do this and do that and do the next thing." And it all just comes together nicely. I mean, okay, I've only written 3 books. I hope it keeps doing that. But every time I start starting to construct the plot and the story, the book takes on a life of its own. And I just enjoy writing it as much as I enjoy it. If I enjoy writing it more than I would enjoy reading it.
Yeah.
You know,
Writing is fun for sure. You start with the blank page, CW says, and then George Dismukes has a question. Do your characters come off the pages and go their own way?
Yes, definitely. And the plot does that as well.
That's right.
Because I'm going in one direction with the plot, and then suddenly I get the idea, what would happen if I did this?
Yeah.
And so I know if I do it, I'm going to get into trouble. I know if I go that way, I'm going to get myself into a dead end, and I'm not going to get out of it. But I'll let myself go, and then I need to work out how I'm going to get back into the main line of the plot again. And it's just a challenge. It's lovely.
Yeah, it is.
The beauty of writing it yourself, when you can introduce something and then you can go back 5 or 6 chapters and give the reader a hint. Whether they're clever enough to pick the hint up, it's another thing, but you can leave hints earlier in the book, which should tell the reader something that's happening, and just let it develop from there.
And foreshadowing is a nice thing too.
Indeed,
You know, Shakespeare used it a lot, so I guess it's probably pretty good, literally speaking. Yeah. Joe Conjal said he thinks at times he runs his actual life as a pantser. I know I do. And CW says, yeah, you write how you read. And George Dismuke said, oops, you just answered that one. Nancy Schumacher, who is George's publisher, as I mentioned, says, hi, Tom, have you always been a writer, or did you come into it later in life?
I came to it later in life, definitely. My first book, I started it 14 years ago. Then it get put on I didn't get put on the shelf. It was on a floppy disk somewhere.
Floppy disk. Wow.
And I didn't come back to it really until lockdown. So it was COVID that really did it for me. So I got it back out, and I'd written about 8 or 9 chapters at the start of COVID. And then it just, because anybody starting their first novel, you think it's a traumatic thing. You've got 80, 90,000 words to write, and it seems a marathon. And, you start to write and you think, I'm never going to get to the end of this. And that's how I felt with the first 7 or 9 chapters. But after I started to write, it just came. And the whole marathon thought about it just disappears. And now, my third book, I'm struggling to keep it within 95,000 words.
Yeah.
Every book I'm writing is getting slightly longer.
Yep.
And, the words are just flowing a lot easier. And, it's a learning process, but it's, and it's an attitude thing as well, I think. More than just your ability to write. It's the way you approach your writing and the discipline you have when you're doing it.
Tom, did you make up your own covers, or did you have those professionally done?
No, I had those professionally done.
They look professional.
Yeah. It's a UK company that did it, called Spiffing Covers. That's a good free commercial for them.
There you
And
go.
it actually says in the back of the book, under the ISBN number and the barcode, designed by Spiffing Covers. So I highly recommend them. They're great. Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to see what the third book is going to be like.
That's right.
And what the title ends up being.
Yeah.
A Serpent of Murders is good. Of Murder is good.
Yeah, I thought I'd like to have murder in the title somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's another keyword, if you like, to get the book promoted. And I haven't done that with either of the first 2 books. The title don't really give you an idea what the book's about. And I thought I'd change that with the third book. So I've learned a little bit from experience that you need to, put keywords in and use keywords more obviously. Yeah.
Keywords are important. That's the truth. And I guess I have one more question I want to ask you, and that is, do you follow the hero's journey? Do you follow that? Do you try to follow that arc that the hero's journey follows?
Yes, I do. And there's quite a difference in the hero between book 1 and book 3. Not just for his PTSD, but for his approach to life and things like that changes. Yeah.
That's wonderful. He grows.
Yeah.
As he should, right? As we all should.
As long as it didn't deteriorate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an upward arc.
I've reached that stage of life where I'm deteriorating.
Me too. It's like, boy.
Slowly but surely.
You're not at all. Anyway, do you have any advice for somebody who wants to get started writing and doesn't know quite how to make that first step?
I think definitely write what you know. Don't be too worried about the marathon, the size of the task, because once you start the task, it gets simplified and it breaks itself down. It's like the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? That's a bite at a time. Just go in there and do it. Okay. Keep at it. And write for yourself. You know, I don't write for an audience. I write for what I want to read and what I want the story to be.
No offense, audience.
No, do write for yourself.
I do. And you know, if people don't like the book, then it's tough on me and tough on them. But I can only write what I like and what I want.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're writing just to write. Not to become a millionaire. You're writing to write, and that's why you should write, because you love to write. You
never write to become a millionaire.
No, that won't happen.
That is not going to happen.
That's going to go bad real quick.
But yeah, I agree with you. You write for yourself because you have to write, because you want to write, because it's fun to write, because the characters are telling you to write. They've got more story to tell and all of those reasons. But even like you said, how you wrote that one scene, and even you look back at it and go, I know that there are some scenes that we've written that, you know, when I've gone back, because we write murder mysteries and they've scared me.
Well, I mean,
and I wrote it.
There's one scene in my third book that after I wrote it, it's not a particularly long chapter. In fact, as the length of the chapters go, it's probably about 3/4 the length of the average chapter. And after I finished it, I sat back feeling very satisfied, but very tired. I felt exhausted that I'd written this chapter and all this action had taken place in it. And I was just washed out.
Like you had done the action.
I'd done the well. It wasn't the hero that did the action. It was somebody else in the story that did the action. But even at that, it was, you know, it just draining.
Yeah.
And so it takes all your energy away. So, but it's just writing a chapter like that is worth it. You know, the amount of satisfaction you get from doing it is tremendous.
It is. And seeing your first book published and holding it in your hands is a thrill.
Paperback copy in your hand. That's great.
George Dismuke says, if you write to be a millionaire, your boat has a bad leak before you push it off the beach.
That's very true.
That is true. It is going to sink.
Well, it's getting pretty late over in your side of the pond there.
Yeah.
Yes, 1 o'clock in the morning here.
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing. You've been amazing, and we appreciate it. We're going to move you over to the side now and go over a few events and things coming up here. So thank you very much. Stay right where you're at there. Well, over on the side, but move you right over there. And This has been an amazing show.
Yeah.
Want to announce, you guys, that one of Meet the Author and Indie Book Source's own Joe Conjal is going to be the guest on Blog Talk Radio. Fresh Ink Group, which is Beam Weeks and Stephen G's, are going to have Joe on the podcast, Voice of Indie podcast, next Wednesday night, right after this show at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on the 27th. And you can call in and talk to, ask questions, make comments and stuff to 516-453-9902. We'll repeat that next Wednesday as well. But that's Voice of Indie episode 91. And
we'll be watching.
We're going to be there.
Not watching. It's a podcast.
We're going to be listening.
It
is just a podcast, not a video. Okay. So I encourage everyone to join us. Joe is a great guy and has a lot to share. This Saturday, episode Rewind has, that'll be the 23rd of April. Episode 21 is a rerun from last summer. It's Diane Astle and Mike Murphy. And that was a really good show. Next week, on the 27th, next Wednesday night, right here, right where you're at, thriller author Frank Taliber is going to be on. And he's going to share all of his great books that he's written.
And Beam Weeks, who's on that podcast that Joe's going to be on, sent us 3 books.
Thank you, Beam.
Thank you, Beam. And he will be on our show.
Right. He's going to be on in...
I forget when.
But he's coming up, I think, in June.
You know. Okay. We'll let you know when he's on. And
June, first week of June, he's going to be on the show. But
a few more comments. Paul Hollis says, as always, a very interesting show. Joe Conjal says, come join me. Yeah, everybody come.
Yes.
Hop on over there after our show. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Rob and Joan. I appreciate it. You're welcome. Oh, Paul Hollis says, Joe, send up a link, please. Go ahead and just, he did it already. There's the link. And Trish Pipkin says, great show.
Yeah, the link is rather long. The easiest way probably to go is to go to blogtalkradio.com. And then in the search, just put in Voice of Indie. And you might be able to put in Voice of Indie episode 91. But we do have it on Indie Book Source, on Carter Novels page on Facebook. We've got the link, and you could go to Joe Conjal's page as well on Facebook. He's got it there as well. So
James says another fast hour. It wasn't it, James? It went too fast, didn't it? It was over before I wanted it to be over.
Yeah. So I think that's all I have. Do you have any words of wisdom or pearls or nuggets of anything?
No. I did last week, but this week I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, we are going to say until next time.
That's all, folks.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DB.com.
You've been listening to WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.